This morning on our Greetings from the Garden State segment, Mike Ham has a really, really cool story that he wants to tell us about. But Mike, before you get going, when I think about New Jersey, three things immediately come to mind: the Jersey Shore,
Mhm.
diners, and dive bars.
Oh yeah,
And we
absolutely.
have one of the greatest dive bars. And that sounds like it's a negative term. It's not. But
No.
we have one of the great dive bars of all time here in New Jersey. And it's coming up this week. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Great Notch Inn. And like you said, dive bar, I feel like at its core seems like it's like a negative connotation, but I love dive bars. I mean, there's some great ones all over the state, but the Great Notch Inn is so legendary in its own way. Been there for I think like 85 years. Grandfather started it, now Rich Hempel owns it. Uh and it's a great place. I mean, I think people get a little bit it has a misconception because they see a lot of motorcycles and stuff outside, and you think you're going to get your butt kicked if you go in there, but you only get your butt kicked if you're mean to somebody. So yeah, that's
What is it about the Great Notch that it's been able to survive just about everything?
yeah, it's really interesting. Basically, two brushes with eminent domain, and it was used to be across the street. If you're familiar with the area, the McDonald's across the street, that's where the original location was, and then put it on logs, rolled it across the street. And Rich, the owner now, his grandfather started. I think it really just kind of came down to how much he cared about the business. I mean, the way the Notch is set up, it's a really small bar inside, and there's a house that's kind of built on the back of it, sort of. And that's where his grandparents lived the whole time. So they would come downstairs, run the bar, go back upstairs, go to sleep, wake up, do the thing the next day. And I think just kind of that, work ethic and that kind of, and what's also interesting is the Notch as it exists now is way different than the Notch that existed when his grandfather ran it. I guess he told me that his grandfather would wear, like, a white button down shirt with a bow tie, and was very serious, and was like a very classy joint. And not that it's not classy anymore. It's just like a different vibe. So yeah, I think just kind of the work ethic, the mindset, and the type of people that Rich and his grandfather are, I think, is speaks a lot to the culture of the place.
And just hearing you talk about taking a building, putting it on logs, and rolling it across a highway.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the image of that alone, Mike, is amazing.
I know, and it's so funny because, like, since I was a kid, that part of Route 46 has been under construction seemingly forever. And part of that is because of them, and that unwillingness to really move. And if they had to move, they would put the bar on logs and rolled it across the street. But the bar itself is older than the highway is. I mean, the place that Rich's grandfather owned originally was basically right in the middle of where Route 46 is now. They leveled that. He wound up buying the building that it is now. And it was just a dirt road through there. And, through these times, and being older than the highway is kind of a cool a cool thing. So especially that area, as well as, like, there's so many strip malls and new stuff and everything, but then just smack dab there in the middle is that little roadhouse, surrounded by bikes and all that kind of stuff. It sticks out in such a good, cool way.
I'm thinking that somebody needs to make a movie about the Great Notch.
Oh, they've done some stuff there. I mean, like, they've done some commercials, and I know they did what, Mrs. T's pierogies,
Yes,
those
sure.
frozen pierogies. Bam Bam Bigelow was actually in that commercial, if for fans of old school wrestling. But he was in that commercial. He showed it to me when we were recording, which was pretty cool. But they definitely need to do something that's like a real, I mean, we did our best to kind of tell the story, but doing like a real deep dive into the real history. And I mean, the pictures he has on the walls and the stories really are kind of what makes it great. I mean, he jokes that he sells t-shirts, like Great Notch Inn t-shirts. And he said that they're 25 bucks, but the stories that you'll get, because people see that shirt and they're like, "Oh my God, the Great Notch Inn. That's amazing. Like, I haven't been there in so long, or I've always wanted to go in." That's the thing I get the most, is people respond to any kind of Instagram story or whatever that I put up with, "Oh my God, I've driven by there a million times and I've just never gone in because I just, either concerned for my safety or whatever." But then you go in and it's like, it's literally the best place ever. Rich is such a nice guy. The people there are always super awesome. You know, the clientele and everything. They have a book you sign on your first visit, you know, just to kind of say, and everyone in there is writing like, I've been passing this place forever and finally came in, and I'm just so happy that I did.
You joked about, concern for your safety. There used to be a place in Asbury Park. It's been gone for years, Mrs. J's. It was just down the street from the Stone Pony, kind of next door. And it was one of those classic Jersey Shore biker bars. And
Yeah,
if you didn't know somebody there, you might be a little intimidated when you walked in. But if
sure.
you knew somebody who brought you in there, it was like being in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I mean, that's the thing. I remember when I walked in the first time, Steve Bauer from Ghost Talk Brewing Company told me to go there. Like, so I had recorded an episode with Steve. This is a couple years ago, and I went into the Great Notch Inn for the first time in my entire life. Same kind of thing. Driven by it a million times, never went in. And I walked in. There was maybe like 5 or 6 people at the bar. It was kind of like that old Western like record scratch thing where like I walked in and everyone kind of stopped and looked at the kid walking in like that. And so I sat down at the bar, ordered a beer, started talking to Rich, who's the owner and basically tends bar every single night. And just, told him who I was, told him, kind of what I do and everything. And then it was kind of kismet. Like we just worked out great and we kind of became friendly and all that. But yeah, that's the thing. It's once you get in there, it's like you're in forever. Like that's a real cultural thing for sure.
I think there are a number of places kind of like that in New Jersey. I think of the Orange Lantern in Paramus. It has that feel to it.
Yeah.
Jig's Corner in Butler is another one. I love going to Jig's because it's just a cross section of humanity in there. It doesn't matter age, gender, anything. It's just a great place to hang. The food is really good.
Yeah.
Ellery's in Middlesex is another one that comes to mind. Johnny's Tavern in Boonton, which isn't too far from the radio station. And,
Yeah.
just those neighborhood type places that you go in and you feel like you've been there forever.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like here in Bloomfield, we have Obel's, which is very similar. Tierney's in Montclair. I mean, like you could literally Tony's Baltimore Grill is another great one, which we go to a lot when we're down in Atlantic City. We have like a whole map of dive bars in New Jersey on our website specifically for that reason, because like you said, I mean, it's such a cross section of humanity, and nobody's really putting on airs when they're in there. It's just kind of like, this is who I am. And it kind of levels everybody out really fast. And that's why we like them. And if they have good food, even better. That's like the big key.
And that's coming up this week on Greetings from the Garden State. You can find all of those episodes that they have on greetingsfromthegardenstate.com. Mike Ham, thanks for joining us this week. Looking forward to this week's story.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.